Welcome in, folks. I'm going to start a new series here on SnowRunner. If you're not familiar with SnowRunner, it is a trucking and delivery game that is kind of based around disaster response. So you're kind of like cleaning up torn up regions and making delivery to open roads and things like that. But we are going to do Hard Plus, and this first one here is my multiplayer, but this one we're going to take a look at the rules. That's the wrong rules. Those are the right rules. Alright, so I've given myself a random North America scout vehicle, and I do own some DLCs, so there's a chance I'll get one in there. Starting at rank 0, starting with 5,000 cash, because I don't want to be, just slogging forever if I don't have to, especially recording. Truck availability. Normally you can buy any trucks available in your region, in any garage. I've restricted that. There's going to be 10 to 15 trucks available in each garage, and they could be 5, it could be 15, it could be 4 scouts and 1 highway truck, which would be completely useless in most circumstances. We just don't know. So I may have to travel around to find a truck I want. Starting with no DLC trucks in the garage, that's going to mean the only way I'm going to get one is to buy one, or if the starting scout is a random DLC scout. Truck prices will be at normal, and I can sell them, which is a deviation from hard mode, but they're at 10% price. It's really just so I can get rid of them and not feel like I'm totally losing completely. It's not going to be worth much, though. I probably won't be selling a bunch of trucks, I'll tell you that. Vehicle storage, we're going to go only 5 trucks at a time. That means when I go to change regions, I'm only going to be able to take 5 trucks with me. So I'm going to have them all pretty well dialed in and decide pretty carefully which ones I want. Trailers, they're all going to be available, but there's only going to be 1 random trailer store per region. So if I'm on Michigan and I need a trailer on Island Lakes that's not down there, I'm going to have to drive all the way back to wherever the trailer store is. The last time I used this setting, it was clear up in Black River, so I had to traverse the entirety of the map to get back to the trailer store, just to buy a trailer. Trailer prices will be default. Selling price, again, is going to be 10%. In hard mode, you normally can't sell them. I'm giving myself 10% just because I can't stand to have a dirty map when I leave it, and I also can't really stand to have, just be destroying trailers. Plus, if I get really hard up for money, I can sell some. It's definitely going to be work. The fuel burn, just dragging all those trailers back, will probably make the profit not great. We're going with defaults for all the add-on rules, which means they should all unlock at appropriate levels, things like that. Refueling in the garage is unavailable, and the fuel prices are going to be random at each gas station, so I'm going to have to pay for or find fuel in the wild. Repair is paid, part restock is paid. I've upped the damage for the parts. It's going to take twice as many repair points to fix damage. And the repair cost outside of my home region is going to be 4 times normal. We're also going 2 times normal on the damage. Truck recovery is going to be paid in base price. That, I feel, is plenty punishing enough. I hate recovering anyways. I am going to give myself 150% on contest payouts, but they're only available on 1 attempt. Auto cargo loading is paid at 6 times the price. We're going with hard mode marker rules. Traveling between regions is going to stay free, and truck switching over the minimap is going to stay free. Both of those things, I feel, just make it the truck switching more so than the travel, but having to pay to switch trucks over the minimap, especially as a single player, is really rough. And it's not like it adds a lot of gameplay. I mean, yeah, it helps with managing your efficiency and saying, okay, I need to plan ahead and have this truck here so I can get into it there, that kind of thing. And then we're doing double daytime, no time skip, just because I do want there to be some night, but it is far better to record for YouTube compression in daylight. So that's it. Let's get started here and see what kind of damage we can do in Black River. I think I'm going to shoot for round about an hour episode, so I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the record time over there. I don't expect there to be a ton of editing. This is going to be kind of my usual live stream format. And it appears we've gotten the Jeep Renegade as our starting scout. Not super thrilled about that. I bought the Jeep pack because, you know, it's an off-road game. But they're not super great. They're really bad at towing trailers, as I recall. It's been a while since I ran the Renegade, so we'll see what that lands us. Looks like we've got the stock engine, the stock suspension. Can we do anything with tires that's worthwhile? Oh, I do have the tire pack installed, so that's helpful. That gives me access, early access it would appear, to some mud tires. I didn't think about that. Oh well, tires alone do not game-breaking make. We are eventually going to want the autonomous scout winch, especially on the Jeep. They've got a real narrow wheelbase, so they do like to tip. Yeah, I don't really want to be adding anything right now, because we are going to need our money. So this is our map as it stands. Obviously we haven't unlocked any of the watchtowers, and Black River has many of them. And honestly, we probably won't right off the bat. I know the map pretty well. I can get from A to B without looking at the map and planning ahead in this particular zone. Oh yeah. This is going to be fun. I'm not even sure this thing can pull a trailer, other than with a winch. So we've got our service trailer, we've got that flatbed back there with some steel beams, and we have a curtain side trailer. All things we're going to need. Why is that hitch not dropping down? Apparently I just wasn't quite close enough. So we do technically start with 3 vehicles. We have a broken down Fleet Star over here, and we're going to leave it sit there for just a minute. We're going to go ahead and get that upgrade. That's the all-wheel drive for the Fleet Star, which we will sorely need. But what we are going to do first is we are going to run over and pick up the GMC, which is a highway truck. It's relatively useless, especially early game. It's a little bit more useful in Alaska where there's more roads. And we're probably going to make that our fuel and service truck. I'll probably put the maintenance frame on that. It does fairly well with that much weight on it and some decent tires. It does okay. It does not have all-wheel drive. It does have a differential lock though. And I believe I can find all-wheel drive for it much later in the game. So it's not a forever dead truck. It's just not going to be a ton of use here on Black River. There's a lot of sloppy mud here and it's just not going to work very well for us. But it does have the sideboard bed on it, which I need to take off of it to put on the Fleet Star. Because cargo loading is paid, essentially in order for me to get much of anything done, I'm going to need to be able to load my own cargo pretty much at all times. Which is easier said than done sometimes. It does kind of limit what you can do with your truck. I actually might sell the sideboard bed and buy a flatbed instead. It's a little cheaper. We do get full value back when we sell modules and vehicle parts, unlike pretty much any other form of sale. One of our first things we're going to do is drag that curtain side trailer over here. In fact, let's go ahead and accept that mission. That one is farming tools. And what we're going to have to do for that is drag that curtain side trailer over here to the farm. It's going to net us about $1,000, which is a start. We're going to need much more than that. I was going to wait. I kind of planned out the way I was going to handle this in my head a little bit. And I was expecting not to have those tires. I forgot I bought that tire DLC. I guess if I really wanted to hate myself, I could not allow myself to use those tires, but I don't think that's the route we're going to go. Because honestly, that's an easy DLC. It's like $3. And let's be honest, the stock tires on all these trucks are absolutely awful. And it's not like I can put the super great ones on there until I get the race suspension and stuff on it anyways. I don't know. I'll have to mull that over a little bit. It's going to be a little bit before we can really afford tires anyways. Pretty much all of our starting capital is going to get eaten up in getting the Fleet Star ready to do work, which we are going to need in order to make any further money. And I am kind of being careful here. I'm trying not to use the all-wheel drive and burn too much fuel, and I've also got to be careful because this is currently my only working vehicle. If I tip it, then my starting capital is gone because I will have to recover it to the garage. I am going to pop back here and activate this mission real quick, which if I remember correctly is going to require some steel beams and some concrete slabs, both of which we have access to. Our first big priority is going to be to get the roads open, because there are many closures and it is much faster and easier to get around this map after you've opened up all the roads. So we're going to go ahead and accept that. We're not going to track it just yet, because we want to get that farm trailer knocked out. But we'll just see what we can accomplish. We'll probably run closer to an hour and a half. I want to try and keep this kind of to one full day in-game per episode. And running the double day and night cycle, I think, means a full day is going to last right around an hour and a half. Normally, one 24-hour game cycle on standard rules is about an hour actual playtime. So I'm not sure if they adjust the ratio within that hour or whether they add, like, double the daytime segment and add an extra 30 minutes to the day. I don't really know how the game handles that. I've never paid attention. Whoa. But that's alright. We are going to grab a watchtower. Now that I'm thinking about it, we can do two birds in one stone here. And we are, I think this is running some Jeep tires of some kind. I should have looked while we were in the garage, because it may be a minute before we're back in the garage with this thing. But those I don't think are standard tires. I think they're specialty Jeep tires. Some of the DLC scouts have their own tires, which are pretty often at least comparable to decent tires that you would buy. We can't go that way. It's been a very long time since I had a vehicle with no snorkel on it, so we're going to have to go this way and burn a little fuel. If you're not a SnowRunner player, you can see my fuel level down there in the bottom, and the fuel burn there to the right of the gauge. When you have all-wheel drive or the differential lock on, most often that's going to come as a fuel burn penalty, so you can't just run it all the time. And since we're in hard mode and fuel's not just free, I have to be conscious of how much I burn, because it could potentially cost us a lot of money. We've got random prices at each station. $16 a gallon at that one. That's honestly one of the best prices I've ever seen. So that's a fortuitous start to our playthrough. I need to remember that. 16 at the town station on Black River. It's very possible that at some point we will have to come back and fill up some trailers with fuel, and that is looking very much like where it's going to happen. I have not seen a lower price in all the times I've played with that rule, and I usually, even in my single-player worlds, that's a rule I set as random at each station, because I kind of like the harder rule set. In default, you can just kind of do whatever willy-nilly. It's almost like a creative mode, because you can just recover to the garage for free if you get stuck or flipped over, and fuel's free. You really only have to pay for vehicle upgrades, so it's not the rule set I usually play with after the first time. And I didn't play too long. I probably put 20 hours in under that rule set. and decided it wasn't nearly hard enough for me. So we've opened a watchtower. We can watch the little observation cutscene there. And where we are headed is just around the corner here to pick up that GMC. And while we've at it, we've discovered the lumber mill. There's also a bridge out up here we'll probably take care of fairly soon. See how much of all this we can get to today. My immediate goal is to get the GMC back to the garage and get the Fleet Star repaired, refueled, and ready to haul some cargo. And I'm just going to throw it into low gear here, so I don't want to go tumbling down the hill. There's quite a camber there at the bottom. It's almost like a little bowl. It's a really good way to tip a vehicle, especially these real short wheelbase ones. I have not spent much time in the Jeep Renegade, but I have spent a lot of time in the International Scout 800, which is another scout vehicle we'll find on the map here at some point. I honestly really like it. I'd love to have one in real life. Finding one that somebody hasn't cut the top off of and tried to make some kind of statement with is near impossible. And they're all, you know, they're pushing 50. They're older vehicles, so hard to find one in good shape to start with, let alone one in good shape that hasn't been destroyed. I find I have a similar problem with, you know, some antique lamps and lanterns like Aladdin's and stuff. I do a lot of antiquing, and for some reason people like to take the guts out and put light bulbs in them. I don't understand that. Like, I understand kerosene lamps are an old technology, but the Aladdin lamp in specific, with its, it had a mantle similar to like a Coleman lantern. It's just an odd thing you don't find anymore, and it breaks my heart every time I find one that somebody's quote-unquote improved. So we're going to park the Jeep here for the moment. We've now got access to this big burly GMC, and it is actually quite a truck all said and done. They give you the top-tier engine in it right off the bat. It's already installed, so this thing's got power for days. Unfortunately, it has no way to get that power to the road. It's running highway tires. It has no all-wheel drive. It's not a great truck for Michigan. It's a much better truck for the road. All the highway trucks kind of share that problem. But what it does have is this bed on it, which I can sell, and some upgrades on the truck itself, which I can sell. Because they're not going to be super useful to us right off the bat. I do really like the sound of this truck, I will say that. And it gets around passably. At least unloaded, and as long as you follow certain routes. I suppose it could be used to run missions around town, which is probably why it's located near town. I've never thought to do that. Since we're playing single-player hard mode here, honestly, we're going to spend probably a lot of time in the same couple trucks.
Alert, alert, alert.
Yeah, I apologize for that. That is my fuel rat case alert for a completely different game. Let me just disconnect from that. There we go. I have the application muted. I'm not sure why it still alerts through. Actually, I'm surprised that didn't wake me up last night. I left it logged in and forgot all about it. But we're going to spend a lot of time in the same truck or two, probably, most of this map here. The rest of our trucks are going to fill specialized roles. So when you can kind of bop around the map and upgrade more things more quickly than what we'll be able to, it's not uncommon to finish a delivery in one truck and then, just to save time, you know, teleport across the map into another truck and take that truck somewhere until you need to work in the same area that the truck you left is. It just kind of sits there. We're not really going to have that luxury as much because we're only going to be able to afford to upgrade a handful of trucks, and we can only take 5 with us when we leave the region anyways. So it kind of behooves us to spend most of our money on making a fewer number of trucks as good as possible. But like I said, this one's probably going to wind up being our support truck. There is a maintenance add-on we can put on here that'll carry a fair bit of fuel and some maintenance parts to repair damaged trucks, which there are several of. Coming right off the bat that I can think of. Before we leave Michigan here, we should be able to get a Scout 800 that is in perfect condition and runs. And then the next vehicle we'll probably be able to actually get our hands on is another Chevy. I say another, we didn't start with a Chevy, so it'll be our first, a Chevy CK 1500. That's in the next map down. And it also has some vehicles we can rescue. We can get a white Western Star down there. That's a really good truck for this area, and passably good in Alaska. We'll probably grab that. I'd say it rivals the Fleet Star. I like the sound of it better than the Fleet Star, for that matter. There's another highway truck down there, a Ford Transtar, that's pretty marginally useless. It'll probably end up being a fuel carrier only for us. And there is the Pacific P16, which is a big ol' heavy truck. Down on Drummond Island here, we'll eventually go grab that, along with the Western Star Twin Steer that's down on Island Lakes. And here in Black River, there's also a Kodiak C70, a big Chevy heavy truck, that's quite drowned. But we're going to have to work pretty hard to earn all of those trucks. They are all available right now. If I could drive up to them, I can have them. But getting them out of where they are is the trick. Getting to the Pacific P16 is the challenge, and once you've gotten a hold of that truck, you can kind of drag the rest of them wherever you need to take them. Alright, so we've arrived back. We need to repair that Fleet Star and get some fuel into it, because right now it is bone dry and busted. So I am going to hook on up to this trailer here. This trailer right behind us is the repair trailer, or the service trailer. We're going to pull it over here and repair that thing, and then we'll drag it into, well, I guess I could just put fuel in it and drive it. No need to drag. Once the way these trailers work for fuel and repairs, you have to be within proximity to the truck you're trying to repair, or attached. The trailer in particular has to be attached to a truck for the repair option to be there. I don't need to repair the GMC, but I do need to repair the Fleet Star. As you can see, it is literally a frame with some parts on it. It appears everything is completely damaged. And honestly, with the cost of repairs, this is going to take almost this entire trailer, which is kind of upsetting because I usually rely on that for a lot of my early game repairs, but what are you going to do? There we go. I do know of a couple other sources of repair that we can get our hands on, but alright, and we are just going to leave that trailer right there. It's not particularly in the way. And then we are going to transfer some fuel from the GMC here over to the Fleet Star. Not a ton. That should get us to where we need to go. And then we're going to put both of these in the garage. So we will need to do some swapping around of parts. So first, let's sell everything on here that's vanity that we don't need. Don't need those. Stock bumper. We don't need either of those. It's a couple extra $100 in our pocket. And as I said, we start with the top tier engine. It supposedly drinks a lot of fuel, but this truck is actually really fuel efficient. I imagine with the base engine in there, it's probably Yeah, it's actually less if, I don't know, A versus A minus. So I guess that would be advantageous. And we may swap that at some point because I believe that motor fits in the Fleet Star. Yeah, those tires are just awful. But this is the part we need to focus on. So this truck currently has a sideboard bed. I can sell that bed for $4,900, which we're going to do because we're going to put the flatbed on the Fleet Star, and it's a little bit cheaper. And then this truck will probably eventually have a maintenance frame add-on. We're not going to do that just yet because we really don't have the cash for it. So let's take the Fleet Star. It needs to be usable, which means it's going to need at minimum the flatbed and the crane, the loading crane. Now that leaves 800 whole dollars, so I can't very well be reckoned. Let's pick a paint job for this guy. I kind of like the green. Let's go with the green this time. So that's going to be our work truck for the foreseeable future. We are certainly going to work towards some upgrades, the most pressing of which is probably going to be getting some tires on it. Literally anything but the tires currently on it would be an improvement. But at least now we have a truck that can actually do something. And the first something we are going to do is we're going to come over here and steal... Oh. I'm having a brainwave. Let's put these metal beams on the flatbed and sell the trailer. I wasn't really planning that, but I think that might give us just enough to squeak some tires out. So we're going to have to unpack that cargo and then detach. I gotta watch my fuel burn here because I need to have enough. There's a fuel trailer up the road, just sitting there, free to use. I can steal all the fuel from it I want, but I do have to be able to get to it. I suppose, worst case scenario, I could pop the GMC back out and steal some more fuel out of it, but for time efficiency's sake, I would prefer it if I didn't have to do that. And we'll be doing an awful lot of this since costing to load trailers is going to be astronomical. At least in perspective to early game. Normally it's 150 per cargo. So we're, let's see, 6X is like what, a touch over 1,000, close to 1,200 a cargo. It's not going to be cheap and easy. That should be close enough. Yeah, that'll work. And then we'll pick up our anchor and put our crane away. We're not going to sell that trailer because this trailer store was not selected. May the odds not ever be in my favor. Makes me wonder. There's another possible location on this map for that trailer store to be. It is kind of fun having it random each time, though. So we're going to run that curtain-side trailer over to the farm. And that'll be our first mission in the bank. In fact, if we do that one and open up that power line, we may have enough to start looking at some tires for this thing. Not the tires I would like, because they're going to be like $5,000, but we'll get there. Baby steps. I know in my other save I've unlocked quite a few more trucks. Some of them quite capable. In fact, I'm half of a mind to just go to Alaska and recover the Royal up there. It's really quite a unit. Oh, we forgot to install the all-wheel drive. That's a shame. That mistake may cost me more than just the fuel it'll take me to run back and do it. Getting into and out of the farm can be tricky, even with the all-wheel drive, so hopefully I don't get stuck here. That would not be an ideal first episode gaffe. it would be very much on brand. I do pretty good at getting stuck. Less so at getting stuck, more so at tipping over. I'm really good at rolling trucks. And becoming quite famous in our multiplayer group for missing turns. That is my cross to bear, I guess. Less so on this map because I know much better where I'm going, but we've progressed to Alaska in the multiplayer map, and I've barely played that map, so I'm forever missing turns and ending up, you know, a mile down the road before I realize that I'm not where I thought I was anymore. So we're going to stick up here on the high ground. That in the middle is a muddy mess. We don't want to get involved with that, and that's our first delivery done. $1,000 in the bank. That gives us 1,850 doll hairs, which is a great start. There's the old Chevy Scout we got to pull out of that water pit over there. I'm not even going to touch that until I have the P16 available. That is the number of playthroughs I've gotten trucks stuck out there trying to fish that thing out is near miraculous. It's really a sight to behold. But we are getting low on fuel. As you can see, the fuel gauge is red now. And we're down to 10 gallons. I do run gallons. The base game unit is in liters and kilometers? Liters and meters, maybe? That makes more sense. Also rhymes, which is fun. There's our fuel trailer, though. But being an American, I prefer gallons. Gallons and miles. So we are going to both fuel up at this trailer, and I'm also going to drag it up here to the road. Because it'll be... Oh, let's activate that task while we're here. I'm going to try to grab any of those we drive through. Or near enough to. But I don't want to be dipping down in here every time I need to refuel something. And we'll be driving down this particular road quite a bit. So it's just handy to have it up by the road, easy to access, where we can, you know, just stop on the road, refuel, and keep rolling. And there's quite a bit of fuel in Michigan when it's all said and done. And we're gonna be doing something a little naughty and stealing quite a bit of fuel as we go, because there are a number of delivery missions or fuel trailers, and they'll be located on the map, but they only have to be delivered with 10% of the fuel in them. Which means I will be stealing and storing the other 90% for personal use. Now we're going to back on up in here and get these concrete blocks. This is not my favorite trailer in the game. I, for whatever reason, just don't care for it. It doesn't seem to tow very well. At least not on this map. It might do better in Alaska. But we're going to steal them, because they're already loaded, and we're going to need all 4 of those concrete slabs. Kind of in the same area. Provided I can drag it out of here without the all-wheel drive. That seems to be the sticking point, but we're kind of crawling along here, so we should be okay. There's a better view of that poor pickup truck stranded out in the middle of the field there. I wonder how they got it there, unless it was parked there when the flood hit. Because that's kind of the storyline for Michigan here, right? Is there was a big flood, and that's what caused all this havoc and damage. Trying to be cognizant of that guardrail here, because the damage multiplier is turned up a little bit. And with the repair points costing twice as much to repair things, it's really in my best interest not to beat my trucks up too much. And so far, we're doing pretty good. And we're going to stick kind of off to the side here. The middle of this gets a little muddy, which very shortly won't be a huge problem, but we got quite a bit of weight on here between those steel beams, which weigh an absolute ton, and 4 pieces of concrete block back there. This, oh yeah, see, we're buried right up to the hubs already. But as long as you're moving in SnowRunner, you're making progress. It may not be good progress, but we'll get there. We do have a winch we can use, but it's kind of fussy, and unless I've completely stopped moving, I do generally try not to. Well, I think we're at that point. So, let's see. I think we'll choose the front corner of that trailer, and that looks like a nice sturdy tree there. Not all trees are created equal. Some of the smaller ones will fold right over when you try to winch to them. But generally the bigger trees that look like they're, 20 years old or so, they generally do pretty well. And then we'll disconnect as we go by. There is also a quick winch feature if you've not played the game. Generally speaking, the center of your screen is where that winch will go, or as close as it can find a winch point to, if you're just quick winching. And after some practice, you get pretty good at panic panning your camera to the right spot. Like if I were about to tip there, I would grab that tree with the side winch, and that would help considerably keep you from tipping over. And then you run into spots like this where there's just not a lot to winch to. There are, in fact, places where there's nothing to winch to, so you do kind of have to be mindful of your surroundings. And that took way longer than I'm used to it taking. But we're on our way. We've got everything we need with us here to repair this down power line and open up this part of the road. And I think what we'll do after that is run back and put the all-wheel drive in, since I rather embarrassingly forgot to do so. And then we will need to go pick up another load of steel beams and drag the rest of these concrete blocks up to open up our bridge in the mountains. So we have the metal beams, we have the concrete blocks, and now we have a clear road. So we are going to let this trailer sit right there. Just going to turn around here and head right back to the garage. Because our next task is going to be further up the road here, somewhere around here. There's a bridge out, and we're going to go ahead and take care of that. That'll leave us with an empty trailer and save us a lot of trips, because honestly, these concrete blocks, the place on this map you have to source those is rather inconvenient to get to, especially this early in the game when you've got, fewer upgrades to your truck. It's really quite a pain. So having that material there is a big boon. I will say, the game does a pretty good job of putting the materials you need to complete at least the infrastructure stuff so you can drive around properly. Generally, most of that, if not all of it, is scattered around the map, staged up on trailers already. You just have to find it and deliver it, which is kind of the name of the game. That said, you can absolutely go buy the materials and accomplish it just as well. Sometimes that works out to be easier, sometimes not. I know, when we go down to get the P16 out of the Drummond Island map, I will see. Now I can't get this winch to go. Ah, there's a small tree. So if I winch hard enough, I'll just pull it right out of the ground. That one there is younger, but it does seem to be holding on better. But sometimes you just have to pick your winch point manually, which on a controller is a little different. If I go to mouse here, you click and drag, and that sets your winch. On a controller, you kind of have to cycle through the points, but yep. We got to hear our less than admirable horn. Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed. A nice old truck like this, I would hope it would have a better sounding horn, but what are you going to do? And these tires really are bad. We were doing much better with the load on. I hate to say it, but there's a... Nah, I guess I can still winch out of here. All is not lost. I was going to say, I hate to have to go back and get the GMC and pull this thing out, but I don't think that's quite necessary yet. Yeah, there we go. That's alright. We can definitely buy some tires, which we're going to do. I hate to run right at the red line on the money, but honestly, this is not going to work. I mean, it would, but it's going to take 4 times as long to get anything done, which means we're going to burn 4 times as much fuel, which I'm not crazy about. There are some upgrades for this truck other than the all-wheel drive. We can get the race suspension. We can get the mid-class motor on this map. And I can't remember. We might be able to get the off-road gearbox. It's either that or the Snowrunner gearbox for scouts on this map. I don't recall which. Both are good choices and good to have, so I would eventually, and sooner rather than later, like to have high range available. It tends to save a lot of fuel if you use it right. Not that we're doing terrible. Less than 2 gallons a minute running around empty, that's pretty good for this truck. And I've spent an awful lot of time in the Fleet Star. It's honestly a pretty capable truck. Oh, there's our first damage, because I was panning around looking at things. As trucks in SnowRunner go, this first truck, I mean, it's all-wheel drive capable. You have locking differential. It takes almost all the bed mods. Honestly, it's a really capable truck. They gave you the correct starting truck, I think. Although I think the White Western Star would have been an equally good choice. Trade their positions out. The white is buried in the next map. Way down a hill and up in some trees and broken, similar to the way the Fleet Star here was. It's quite an effort to recover that truck, but absolutely worth it. It's a good truck. In fact, once I have it, I'll use it more than the Fleet Star. So, let's first, before I forget again, we're going to install the engageable all-wheel drive. And this truck, nor any of my trucks that are capable of all-wheel drive, will ever have rear-wheel drive only, so we're going to sell that for $1,000. And that should give us enough cash to buy some real tires. Now, we're not going to be buying anything in the highway or all-terrain category. We're going to go either off-road or mud. Now, admittedly, these would be locked until rank 8. That would be the stock tire. If you're playing vanilla game, the UOD 2s. In fact, I would put the race suspension and the 45 inches on this truck, if that were a possibility. But I do have the 42-inch JAT tire mod, or DLC. I have those tires available. And they all have equal rating on them. I think we'll just go with the 2s. That will leave us a grand $75 in the bank. That's a new low balance right there. But we should be able to get around a lot better now. Which is good. We're going to need it. At least in the mud. So, let's head up to town. Looks like we've got around about 15 minutes left here. And I think that will be just enough time to run ourselves up to town, collect our second set of steel beams, and make our way up to the closed bridge and get it built. Or the new bridge built. I can never remember if it's a broken bridge that needs fixed or a new bridge being built. I feel like it's a new bridge being built over a rock slide or something. I better slow down here. That's a great speed and a great way to tear up your truck. And you'll notice just how much those tires do. I have not kicked the all-wheel drive on at all. And we are cruising right along. Apologize if you can hear my dog slurping away at the water bowl there. She is quite noisy. Absolute sweetheart, though. Yeah, these tires, this is what I'm talking about. I am glad I bought that DLC. I'm not above using DLC for this. I paid real money for the privilege to have these tires. I'm not going to feel guilty about running them. And I'm not even going to say that it lessens the challenge. It lessens a little bit of the early grind. But I don't feel like it takes away from the experience of operating in a hard mode variant. I still have to manage my fuel and all that. It's just a slight shifting of priorities. This truck is tall enough we can at least take it through the main road up here instead of going around like we had to with the Jeep. So that'll cut a little bit of time off, but we have to go basically in town to the township supply center and get our steel beams. And then we'll truck back down this way. Ooh. I'd love to know what I hit. Time for that all-wheel drive. Oh yeah, look at her crawl. Right up out of the mud. Beautiful. But we have to get our other beams to get that bridge done. We're going to need a lot of beams, actually. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should collect while I'm up there. I don't think so. There is a fuel trailer that needs delivered, but I want to hold off on that until I've made enough to buy a fuel semi-trailer. Because that is how we're going to store all of our stolen fuel. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we run into. There is undoubtedly going to be some scouting episodes and some upgrade hunting episodes. But for this one here, we're just going to kind of get our feet wet, get things started. Now that is the way we came up with the GMC from down by the lumber mill. I purposefully didn't take that way in the Jeep because I wanted to hit that watchtower on the way, so I took an alternative route. But we'll have to go back there. There's a wooden bridge that needs built back that way soon too. You always want to hit those kind of gentle. They will respawn every time you load into the map, and not just from the menu. If I come out and I go into the main, like if I'd unlocked the other maps, if I traveled to one and came back here, those barriers would be stood back up. And even though they fold like paper mache, if you hit them at speed, they will absolutely tear up your truck. And this water is just deep enough to scare you, but not enough to matter. So even with the stock suspension and no snorkel, you can generally sneak through there in most of the medium trucks. For sure, anything bigger than that. Scouts are a little iffy. That's why we drove around in the Scout and popped out right there. But it wasn't a problem for the Fleet Star here. It's a champ of a truck. Not the best truck, but honestly, I think people hate on it because they spend so much time in it. But in terms of all the trucks available in SnowRunner, like total performance for a Michigan truck, this thing will carry you pretty much the entire gameplay of Michigan. If you want it to. I mean, we'll need other trucks. We'll certainly outfit other trucks to do different things, just to minimize swapping back and forth. But if I wanted to do like a one-truck challenge for Michigan, this would be the truck. It would probably do very well for that. And I'm going to need to position kind of like that, because these steel beams are quite heavy. And $900 per cargo to load. Yeah, I was afraid of that. That'll keep me from doing it though, but we can have them drop them right there and we can crane them up for free. I will have to drag them over. There's no way I'll be able to lift them where they are currently. It's just too far of a reach for this crane. I can get a hold of them, but if I try to boom up, you can see it says no. Too heavy, but what I can do is drag them over closer to the truck, and as I get a shorter lever there, I can manage to pick them up. Let's try not to take out this poor guy's roof here. really get confused by the crane controls sometimes. They are, in fact, persistent controls, which means left is still left as it was when I was behind the crane. But when you get in front of it, it's backwards, so I do give myself fits with that fairly often. It's just something you'll have to bear with. Pack that, raise the anchor, pack the crane up, and off we go. Didn't realize I still had all-wheel drive on. That's a good way to waste fuel. You'll notice you can check your trucks. Some of them are worse than others. But if I sit here with the parking brake on, sitting still, we're at 6.6 gallons a minute fuel burn. If I turn on all-wheel drive, even just sitting here, it goes up to 0.8. And if we switch the differential lock on, it seems to be no change. So you can check and see how significant the change is, but going down the road, we're at, well, it's hard to tell in auto because it's constantly shifting, but that's a good little trick you can do. There's spreadsheets online and stuff like that that'll kind of spell out exactly what the increased burn is for different configurations, and there's a myriad of them out there because the gearbox changes the fuel burn, the engine changes the fuel burn, the modes change the fuel burn, and then just the developers setting it a particular way. Some trucks just burn a load of fuel with a switchable all-wheel drive, and some seem to take no penalty at all. I would say the Fleet Star is pretty middle of the road. Maybe on the more economic side of middle of the road. I don't find running it in all-wheel drive hurts too much at all, whereas there are some trucks I do every fuel-saving trick I can think of because it's just a real chore to get them from A to B without them towing their own fuel tanker. You know what? We should spend a little bit of money on some headlight upgrades if we can. I can't remember. But I don't think the Fleet Star will let me put fog lights or like a roof rack RC light situation up there. I better slow on down. Did you see that tip as I took that corner there a little bit? It would not be fun trying to stand this thing up with the GMC right now, because there is nothing on the GMC. And with 75 bucks in the bank, the only thing I could put on there would be a saddle. Actually, maybe not. The seismic modules are there. I don't know how much they weigh, though. I don't know if they'd be any... Or not the seismic, but the metal detector modules. There's a couple of free ones. I don't think any of them are significantly heavy enough to help us, though. I would have to look in the bank, or in the garage. But first we need to pick up our concrete, so we're going to need that. And we can refuel again up here. There's a fuel station we're going to check the prices at. But there is also a heavy semi-fuel trailer sitting there that we will refuel at for free instead. That's one of the trailers we're going to be borrowing fuel from, shall we say? I do think I'll keep this trailer in the short term. It'll be good for moving scouts to the other map, because it's got the ramps on it. And I would prefer to just kind of do all that in one trip. My rough plan is to kind of 100% a particular map as much as I can before I move on. And just for reference, when I say map, this is what I mean. This is a map. There are 4 of them within a region. Up top we have regions. So currently I have available to me these 4 regions: Michigan, Alaska, Tamir, and Quebec. I've not played at all in the last 2, very little in Alaska, and I've pretty well beaten Michigan more than once now. But the maps here are Black River, Smithfield Dam, Island Lake, and Drummond Island. So I want to try and complete Black River as much as I can before I move on to Smithfield Dam, which is mostly possible. There are a handful of things you may have to get from one map and take to another. It's mostly logs. For instance, not all log stations will provide all types of logs. So sometimes you have to cross one map to another within a region to get all the logs you need for the logging missions, but the rest of it we should be able to pretty much do in-house and be done with it before we move on. And we are going to go to low gear. I don't know that I need all-wheel drive. Okay, I might need all-wheel drive. This is where the lack of engine power in that stock engine really shows. To be fair, we're asking quite a bit still. 2 concrete blocks and a load of steel beams is not a light load at all. Both of those items are pretty hefty. Even unpacked, they're pretty heavy. They're hard to crane. But we'll manage. Slowly but surely. We only have to really crawl up 1 or 2 hills here, and this one's nearly done. I am missing that low high range. In the other playthroughs, I've pretty much always got my gearboxes set up that way by now. Well, not by now, obviously. This is a brand new save, so there's nothing set up on it, but I'm used to having it available instead of just low. So let's go ahead and accept this mission. That is an absolute bear to get to. That's another one we won't be doing until we have the P16 in our pocket. And $46 a gallon here. That's more in line with what I was expecting. And then of course here's that trailer. So we're just gonna, oh, we drifted just a bit too far. There we go. It's got 1,300 gallons in it for the taking. We can't take all of it. I do have to leave 10%, but I will certainly use as much as I can and store as much as I can. I can't take trailers with me, but if I put a fuel tank body on a truck, I can absolutely fill that up, stuff it in the garage, and take it to Alaska that way. And I'll have to pay for fuel there as well, so I think part of the struggle here is this trailer. It's an extra 3 axles of friction and no axles of traction, so. And they're also spaced out. If it were a semi-trailer on a 5th wheel hitch, it would be a bit easier, but with that front axle dolly thing going on there, I don't actually know what you call that type of trailer. What do you call a trailer where the front axle is articulated dolly style but permanently attached? Because if that were a short tractor trailer, like a Old Dominion pup trailer or something, that would be called a dolly at the front. But I don't know what you call it when it's just part of the trailer assembly. It's infuriating to back up. I don't know. I'm sure the advantage there is the weight distribution per axle, but I generally prefer fixed tongue trailers, not that articulated nonsense. But that's myself. That's what I have experience towing in real life, so that's what works in my brain. There are special individuals out there that don't mind those trailers. I ain't one of them. But we've arrived at our second objective, Mountain Bridge. And we're going to make some money, so let's accept that. Switch over to cargo management. The metal beams give us stage 1. And we get a little cutscene to go with it. And if I go back in here and drop off the concrete blocks, we'll have a whole bridge. Look at that. Now we can drive on up the mountain, and we've been promoted to rank 3. I dig it. I dig it a lot. And I think that's where we're going to call it for this episode. I feel like we got quite a bit done. We got the Fleet Star here repaired. We got some work capability set up on it. We've opened up 2 of the roadblocks. There are several more to go. I think the next episode, now that we have, what do we got? We got $2,800 bucks. We might have to do 1 or 2 more missions. What I would like to do is get the Jeep in actual scouting trim, get some good tires on it, and then get these watchtowers and stuff knocked out so we can, kind of see the whole map. As you can see, it does reveal as we explore. But when you hit a watchtower like we did over here, it reveals a whole segment. And I would like to get all those knocked out. But that's where I'm going to call it for now. So we now know that it does appear that we'll get an hour and a half per day now. So it is additive. So when you change it and do double day or double night, it is adding 30 minutes of whichever one you doubled. So the total time of playtime for one in-game day at the double daylight no skip setting is going to be an hour and a half. So depending, I may try to get an hour and a half out of the future episodes. We are going to have episodes that are in night or encompass night. It's just going to depend on how I feel the day I record the episode, whether I've got a full hour and a half of talking to myself in me or not. But until then, if you liked what you saw, hit the like button for me, hit subscribe, let me know you want to see more, and we'll see you the next time I decide to haul things in Michigan. Catch you later.